So welcome everybody to our Lunch and Learn this week. Today we've got Whitney Hutton-Elkins from PassiveInvesting.com here to share information about car washes with us. So Whitney, welcome. Thank you for jumping on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, many of you guys know me already. I'm the Director of Investor Education here at PassiveInvesting.com. Just for your ease, I put my contact information here on the first slide in case you can't join for the entire webinar. But today we're going to talk about car washes, how to invest in car washes for cash flow. And I'll also touch on how to do that for appreciation as well. You guys should also have a PowerPoint presentation or a PDF document. That's a compilation of material that I've pulled out of our offering memorandums. But today I'm going to go kind of even strip that down even further into just like the what, the whys, and the hows. Like you can get into what area of car washes you want to invest in, why it's important that you understand how to underwrite them, and then just how to do that. How can you get into them, evaluate them from a cash flowing standpoint as well as an appreciation standpoint. But if we aren't familiar with each other, welcome. I'm Whitney, and this is the whole reason why I invest in real estate, is me and my crazy crew here. I love real estate. I've been investing in real estate since 2002. Got into it completely by accident. By trade, I'm a trained epidemiologist. So think of Dustin Hoffman and Rene Russo from the movie Outbreak. That was always what I wanted to grow up doing. And I actually did get to do that post 9/11, investigating smallpox and anthrax outbreaks here in the United States, and doing a lot of education and training for our doctors and nurses in our public care system. But I wanted to also try to create financial independence for myself. And I stumbled upon a small way of doing that, which is through real estate. I bought a house with a significant other. The relationship fell apart. And fast forward, 11 months later, I rehabbed the entire house, paying most of my friends in sushi and beer and pizza. We retiled, drywall, electrical, plumbing, the whole 9 yards. And I sold the house and made $52,000. But more importantly, I actually hadn't been paying for any of my expenses that entire time. My roommates had actually been covering the bills for me. And I was just bitten by the real estate bug. And I spent many years continuing to do this live-in flipping and house hacking strategy because the IRS allows you to reap $250,000 in gains individually, tax-free, and $500,000 as a married couple tax-free. So my husband and I were just doubled down on that strategy for several years, continuing to fix, flip, and move. And then we wanted to, just have a more stabilized life. So we had plenty of equity. So we learned how to invest in buy and hold rentals in order to create cash flow for ourselves. And then we scaled up about 30 rentals that way. We were still doing several flip and fixing projects on the side. And we had our baby girl. And that's really when we realized, okay, we've been burning the candle at both ends, 5 times in the middle. It's time for us to figure out how to leverage ourselves out of our business or leverage ourselves up. So we decided to get into multifamily real estate, and we did that actively and passively. And really, we just knocked the doors off of our portfolio the more we were able to take our active income and put it into passive real estate. We started off in multifamily, eventually added in self-storage, and now we're adding in layers of businesses to our portfolio. And one of them happens to be car washes. But just to let you know where we're at today, we have over 6,500 multifamily units, 2,200 self-storage units actually, and 7 express car washes. And that's just us personally. But those are numbers. We get 100% control and choice in how we spend our time, which is completely amazing. And we can actually help you do that here at PassiveInvesting.com. And I'll tell you more at the end of today's presentation. If you're interested in exploring this area, if it resonates with you, how you can get involved. But today we're talking about express car washes. Now, anything I say today, it's not financial advice, legal advice, tax advice. Make sure that you are consulting with your professional team before making any investment. Now let's talk about the industry. Okay, why even get into car washes? Like, what's the draw here? Well, first, to understand like why we should care about car washes, let's actually understand the what. What specifically are we looking at here? And really, there's four different types of car washes. The first one is you have your in-bay DIY type car wash. So think of that, it's like a little garage bay, and you can drive your car in, you drop your coins in, or even now you can scan your credit card, but you get a wand for soap and a brush, you scrub your car down, you're doing everything mainly yourself. I always joke around because we actually still have a vehicle that we have to take into one of those type of in-bay DIY type scenarios, and and my husband just took it last night, and my daughter hosed him down again with the hose. I always say you pray your 10-year-old doesn't hose you down with the hose. And then we have our in-bay automatics. And these are the type of things that you've probably seen attached to a self-service gas station. So there may be one or two bays there, but only one car can get through at a time. It's very time-intensive model. I mean, it's certainly automated, but it's very time-intensive. If you're 2 or 3 cars back, you're probably leaving line to go do something else. And then we're going to go to the other end of the spectrum and look at full service type model. This is where you might drive in, there'll be, maybe 10 vacuums, small bay of vacuums, but there's an army of people ready to start vacuuming out your car for you. They'll drive it in through a tunnel for you. Maybe the tunnel is automated, maybe it's not, but the car will go through a short tunnel, maybe say 20, 30 feet. So you can get, a few cars in there at a time. It'll wash the car, but it comes out and there's an army of people ready to wipe down the car, wipe down the interior of the car. Now, these guys tend to be more automated type car washes, but they're extremely labor intensive. So what we are actually looking at here, and where big money is starting to get into, is this express tunnel car wash. And so it's a marriage of convenience between DIY automation, or excuse me, automated car washes, and having ability to scale on some of the higher touch pieces. So you've probably seen them around. You drive into this type of facility, there might be 30, 40 vacuums available for people to vacuum the cars themselves. If you pay for a higher tier membership, maybe you get your car vacuumed for you. You're jumping in the car, you're going through a long tunnel, say like a 60, 80-foot long tunnel. It's in that tunnel is taking care of everything: pre-wash, wash, undercarriage wash, wax, tire shine, drying the car, everything. And there's probably 10 or 20 cars in that tunnel alongside with you. Even in some of these tunnels, you might actually, if you got your family in the car, there can be automated light shows, so it can be a form of entertainment as well. But once you exit the tunnel, you're essentially done and you can go on your way. The whole experience probably takes you about 5 minutes to get your car washed. They're pretty quick. And in these type of tunnels, we can wash about 400 to 500 cars a day with only 2 to 3 full-time employees. Again, we're getting that high touch service that people really love with full service car washes, but with a low overhead. Now, why are we looking specifically at this space, or why should you consider specifically looking at this space? Well, the car wash industry as a whole is about a $33 billion industry, and it's growing the whole industry at about 3.9% annually. Now, that express tunnel sector of this industry is growing at almost double that clip, though. And so that gives us a real opportunity to jump into this arena and take advantage of this high scale growth. Now, it is a very fractionalized industry. There have been express car washes, built before. They've been around for several years, but these, it harkens back to self-storage, say in 2006, 7, and 8. We had a lot of small mom and pop operators that had like 1 to 5 locations. There was no property management. And these people wanted to exit out of their businesses because they were tired of being owner operators. They thought they were going to be able to scale to the 10 locations it took to get to a regional, to be able to hire a regional manager, but they never could. Same thing is happening here in the express car wash industry. Now, these are really ripe, one for to consolidate the industry, but 2 for disruption, because a lot of these units or locations that have been built, say in the last 5 or 10 years, They have pretty modest low operational expenditures, high margins, so they're already an attractive business to own. But there's still an immense amount of things that we can do from a marketing perspective, a branding perspective, from a technology perspective, to be able to even make them more efficient, operationally efficient, and produce higher margins. Now, one question that I often get is, why express car washes, right? Like, if there's a recession, wouldn't somebody just cancel their membership and wash their car in their own driveway? No. Once the behavior is established, people rarely give up. For one, they don't stop washing their car, but they rarely give up their membership. You see, the average customer washes their car about 13 times a year. And of those people that wash their car at a location, 72% of them actually prefer the express model over every other model. Now, there are going to be small groups of people who have to wash their cars at a specific location. Like for us, we have our camper van. We have to wash it in an in-base scenario. But for majority of the people who have automobiles, they would prefer to have that express location. Now, when it comes to being recession resilient, we have data from 2008, 11, 17, when we had a small blip there, and then 2020, where people actually have to take better care of their cars in challenging times because they can't, credit and lending is probably dried up. Okay, they can't afford to get a new car. Maybe their household budget can't afford for them to get a new car. They can't afford the down payment. Or like we saw in 2020, where there just wasn't any new cars to get because we didn't have the chips for the new cars. So people actually have to take better care of their car to help, to make sure that it lasts longer. So just to kind of sum it all up, this industry is really ripe for disruptions. One, the consolidation from mom and pop ownership to larger institutional ownership. We have the technology, we have the business plans in place to be able to scale efficiently. This provides between consolidation and scalability, we can shift the model of income from linear income, having to work direct ownership on the location, to more residual model, making it more passive. We have a lot of technology that we can layer onto this, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. And for those people who are kind of scratching their head, like, I would never invest in a car wash because it uses water, I'm very environmental, or it dumps chemicals into the system, I would never use an express car wash. Actually, the equipment that is going into these express car washes is very environmentally sound. And I'll speak more to that when we talk about operational efficiencies. Now, how should you look at investing in express car washes? I'm going to anchor this in a couple different ways for you, as far as like looking at the cash flow and appreciation. There's a couple different ways that you can get invested, but I'm largely going to look at this as how should you evaluate one from a passive standpoint. You can do this actively, totally fine. There's no right or wrong way to do this. However, whenever you get into, if you're going to build one from the ground up, an express car wash location, to do it right, you are probably wanting to get a tunnel that's at least 80 to 120 feet long. And when you start figuring out the cost of land, all the building that needs to be built, as well as all the equipment that needs to factor into it, you're probably starting off minimally at a $1.5 to $2 million investment to get that off the ground. And for most individuals, that's just a huge barrier to entry. So there are actually, groups out there that do passive models, and there's a couple of different ways you can invest passively. We can have direct ownership, where you own the land, own the brand, own everything about the car wash, including a third-party management company, or you can invest through a franchise model. And again, no specific right or wrong way to do this, but I'm going to point out to you kind of like where some of the stumbling blocks might be, should you choose to invest in one particular asset over the other. All right, but regardless, between whichever model you do it actively or passively, direct ownership or franchise ownership, you have to, look through the lens of capital preservation. Make sure that you are investing in a growth market. Okay, not unlike what you would probably do if you're evaluating a multifamily deal or a self-storage deal. You want to be a market where the population's growing, incomes are growing, jobs are growing, jobs are diversified. You want to be a market where crime's coming down, poverty's coming down, tax laws are favorable. And ideally, you want to be, in a market with good supply demand metrics, meaning there's a huge amount of demand for this type of investment in that area. Now, that all boils down to location, location, location. And specifically for a car wash, you want to be not only in the right market, but the right submarket in that market, and even on the right street corner in that market. And for us, one of our criteria that we look at is to make sure that there's at least a 20,000 vehicle count, 20,000 cars going past that location in a day. And not just going past, but actually can make a right-hand turn into that location. So we want to make sure the traffic flow is to our advantage, to where they can make an easy right-hand turn into the location. All right. So wealth principle number 2, cash flow. We want to protect that too when we make an investment here. So, number 1, what type of car wash are you going to invest in? Are you going to do the DIY model, the in-bay automatic, a full service car model, or are you going to, invest in this highly, sought after express model? And then we get down to, how do you want to invest? Like, if you're going to do express, are you going to do franchise model, or are you going to do direct ownership? And for me personally, I like direct ownership, where the operator owns the land, owns the brand, and even owns the third-party management company that's managing that. And guys, there is not a whole, I say own the third-party management company. As far as I know, PassiveInvesting.com is the only company that actually owns their third-party management. So they are truly vertically integrated. Otherwise, everybody else says they might own their management, which means they just have a regional operator trying to oversee their locations. All right. How do you protect the tax benefit pillar here? Okay, that's another huge wealth pillar for us as we build or, add assets into our portfolio. Well, it's much like what you would do in multifamily and self-storage. You would look for assets that where the operator is going to perform a cost segregation analysis and take advantage of depreciation. Now, they not only just inline depreciation, but accelerated depreciation. And the unique thing about car washes, as bonus depreciation starts ticking down from 80% to 60 to 40 to 20, they still qualify for 179 depreciation. So there's still it's a huge opportunity to write off a lot of those costs in year 1 associated with the asset. And when we look at a car wash, even the building can be counted as a piece of equipment. So that's why you see operators producing probably 70 to 90% year 1 losses for their car wash deals. All right. I also like looking at how can we inflation hedge this asset. Okay, so the traditional definition of inflation hedging is locking in your debt at today's dollars and then letting the dollar devalue over time. Same thing applies here. We can lock in great debt on these locations. Okay, we can use public debt, private debt. We can also get SBA loans if we wanted to for these particular locations. But I also look at how can we adjust the income and expenses on the asset and to respond to the economy and what's happening there. And one thing that's really uniquely to note here is with express car washes, it takes about 80 cents to $1 per wash to wash the car. And that's just what that's water, that's electricity, that's the chemicals. Okay, so this is where the model gets really unique because a lot of mom and pop owners to date have only been charging per wash at their locations. Now, okay, still they're making a huge amount of cash flow on their properties. Maybe they're charging $10, $15, $20 per wash. However, what would happen if they moved their clients, their customers, from a per wash scenario to a subscription model? Okay, so now you've got your customer locked in at $25, $35, or $45 a month for their subscriptions. And the question then becomes, how many times a month then do they wash their car? Well, we have data to support that the average customer on a subscription model washes their car 1.8 times a month. So there's still a hefty amount of margin here, and we're able to capture that income even in the off months when the customer does not come to the location. All right. So not only can we increase the income on the property, stabilize it by making it monthly recurring revenue, there's also ways to adjust operations on these type of assets. So not only, if you get in a situation to where you can create, you can consolidate these assets together, you can go from mom and pop ownership with 1, 2, 3, 4 locations where you couldn't really negotiate with vendors. Now you have like 10, 15, 20 units or more. For us, our model is to scale to 250 or more locations. But let's say you're at about 20 locations now. You have buying power. Okay, so that's a great way to, adjust your operations a little bit, the cost of the chemicals that go into this, but also at any point in time, you can speed up and slow down how that tunnel operates. You can even adjust, when do people get undercarriage cleaning or tire shines? And that can all be related to their subscription barcode. That's either a card they're given on their phone or on the physical card itself. All right. So here I'm going to talk about the equity piece. Okay. And this is specifically if you're investing passively, because this is where the real opportunity, I think, is for investors, and what most people here at Left Field Investing, they're doing for themselves. We have, again, equity growth. We've got the early market consolidation. So we are the early takeoff. Like, we're at the very beginning part of this logarithmic curve or exponential curve that's about to happen. So we've got early market consolidation. The real obstacle right now is, operators need to solve the third-party management piece. We've already done that here at passiveinvesting.com. But the reason why operators need to make sure they properly solve that third-party management piece, because they're not going to be able to successfully create a large exit, I should say, for their investors until they do. So that's a huge piece here for the industry to solve. Now, that's an opportunity for operators, because that inability to have third-party management right now is what's keeping big money, like the big Blackstone, the private REITs, out, is because they don't want to pick up these small mom and pop locations because they have nobody to place it with, place it for management with. Okay, so there's a really unique window here, probably in the next, 3, 5, 7 years, to get a strong foothold into this industry. We've already touched on it in several other slides, but the real equity pieces here are, how do you increase income, decrease expenses, and add additional streams of income? There's some great things that you can do on express car washes to add additional amenities. Now, if you're looking at a deal and you're looking at an operator and they're saying, okay, we're going to add scents at an extra charge and vacuuming at an extra charge, they're going to add all these things at an extra charge. You're going to want to take a look at what other people, other competitors, other operators are doing in the market, because when larger operators, like, for what we're doing, are in the market, they're going to be able to include those things in the membership. Okay, and really kind of put the competition, their competitor out of competition with their subscription. So it's not so much adding those things to the bottom line, but it's creating more value in the membership. So I would look for those. One of my favorite ways to create value that I've seen in the membership model is to add a pet wash. I have a dog. I have a big dog, a 75-pound puppy, by the way. And when she gets dirty, there's nothing I hate worse than putting her in my clean car. And just for about a $500 CapEx investment, you can add a pet wash at one of these locations. All right, now let's talk about the real juice, where investors get really excited about this, is the exits. So, you could, when you're working with an operator, if they're smart, they're going to show you a really conservative exit. And that is individual sale of the asset. Okay. You're probably looking at about 2 to 4x multiple, equity multiple on your money on an individual sale of the asset. Okay. Now, another cool thing is if that operator can, if they have plans to get over to like 100, 150, maybe even like 175 locations, that becomes really enticing for a larger private equity group, especially if they've solved that third-party management piece. And so that larger private equity sale, you're probably going to hit closer to 4.7, maybe even a 10x multiple exit. Okay. And this is equity multiple. I'm not talking about equity multiple for the LP. I'm not talking about the equity exit, but what you as an investor probably would orient to for what you could a return you could earn on your money. But the real cool thing here is if the operator can hit 250 locations or more, the possibility of doing an IPO is, becomes very real. And that's where you're hitting, probably upwards of 14x equity multiple on the investor's money. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Any operator should always, always, always show you the most conservative exit, which is individual sale. But what you want to evaluate is, do they have a business plan, or is it even on their radar to do one of these larger exits? Okay. All right. And that leads me to my last slide. Well, not my last slide, but when we talk about the wealth pillars, is you want to make sure you're working with operators that have knowledge of not only business but in real estate, but specifically in this space. So again, much like we talk about this all the time at Left Field Investors, make sure you're investing with operators that actually know the strategy. They have the expertise and track record to perform on that strategy. They have the ability to secure credit and lending for high quality assets. Okay. And they have the ability to reliably pull investor capital and close on these deals. And they have actually a team of people ready to work on your behalf. And, for us, in our property management company, we already have 140 employees that are working very diligently to help our investors grow their wealth with us in the space. So I want to, leave you guys with the invitation here. If you would like to learn more about express car washes, what we're specifically doing is passiveinvesting.com in this space. Check out passiveinvestingwithwhitney.com. It's a sub page on the Passive Investing website. And there I've got some free goodies for you, but also you can get access to my calendar and we can hop on a call and talk all things real estate.
Awesome. Thanks, Whitney. Good stuff. I'll put a reminder. I forgot to mention it at the beginning, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A and we can throw that out to Whitney. So I guess maybe you could just give us a status of where PIC stands and kind of your portfolio in the car wash business. What's it look like these days, just to share?
Yeah, definitely. So, I wanted to keep this very focused on lunch and learns.
Yep, we appreciate that.
Yeah, so people can actually take this information and evaluate the deal that fits best with their portfolio. But for what we're doing and what our deals are, we have a very specific strategy. We're aiming for that 250 to 300 location count in 5 years. We're going to do that with acquisitions and development. We're focused on those growth markets, as I talked about. We own the land, the brand, and the third-party management company. And that's one thing I really didn't talk about, because there's no I don't want to knock franchise models, but there's an inherent business plan issue with a franchise model. One, the franchisee may not own the land. We don't know, so they're already at risk with their business plan with what the landlord's going to do. They certainly don't own their brand. Okay, they're subject to brand, brand licensing and what happens there. Two, they might be restricted on the marketing that they can do for their particular investment. Because if somebody else in the market already owns a location with the same franchise brand, now they're competitors. They're not synergistically working together. They're actually competitors. And then they could be like impacting each other's businesses, hopefully positively, but possibly negatively. I put on here our structure for our deals. We offer a 10% preferred return, and our deals are slated to cash on cash 12 to 15% by year 5. Now, you asked about like how they're performing. We're coming into year 1 of ownership on our first several locations, and it's been a big learning year for us and a big scaling year for us as we scale our property management company. And if you look at if you look at the deals that we picked up from April to January, you had like four months of like low sales because not a lot of people wash their cars in the wintertime. But our performance were built on a 12 month year. Sorry.
Right. Yep.
I need more caffeine this morning, guys. Anyways, we're on track. We actually this last month we saw an uptick of about almost 30% in washes on some of our locations. So, we're on track for the year. Year to date, may feel a little bit behind, but for the year, we're definitely on track, and in half of our locations actually beating pro forma. Another unique thing on the equity growth piece, I would look for operators that leave you uncapped, right? So this is not a real estate investment. This is a business investment. And so what frustrates me more is me looking at deals and I see the operator is asking you to participate in development. For one, we don't do that. You can either do the development with us, or you can do operations, or you can do both. A lot of other people ask you to do both the development and the operations, and they say, oh, by the way, you can only make 25% IRR on your money. I'm like, wait a second, I took all the risk in the development and you're capping me.
Right.
To me, that's leaves a little bit of a bad taste. But again, there's no right way or wrong way to do this. But we offer both models. Acquisition, if you want to do development, fantastic. Those are a different set of numbers, different structure. But what I'm showing here is our acquisitions model. And then we got our year 1 tax loss. We just filed taxes, and we were right on target with most of our locations with that 70 to 90% year 1 loss.
Good. How many locations are you guys up to now?
We're at 22.
Sorry, you mentioned that 22. Good.
Yep, we're at 22 locations.
Getting about 10% there.
Yeah, well, the first year is really about scaling the property management company, right?
I can understand that.
Like, what don't you know about the space, right?
Yeah. Where do you target market from a geography standpoint? Are you trying to be, to your point, the winter months up north maybe don't get as much activity? So do you try to stay in the Sun Belt, or have you got specifics around that you'd recommend as well?
Yeah, I'll tell you what our strategy was to start in our own backyard.
That's
right.
Fair.
So we could build out our property management company. We were, only 2-hour drive for any one of our locations initially, or somebody on the team was only a 2-hour drive from any one of our locations. So we could be very hands-on in this initial scale year for scaling and prepping for hypergrowth. So now that we've kind of gotten that puzzle piece solved here, we are posed for hypergrowth. I mean, I can see our deal funnel looking out, and we're going to be looking beyond the East Coast. Right now we own between Virginia, Maryland. Actually, I think we have one in Maryland, but like Virginia down to like Florida. And so we're starting to look more interiorly now that we have those initial kind of ramping up puzzle pieces in place.
Sure.
And we actually have 2 brands then, because you can imagine somebody in Missouri is not going to resonate as well as with Hurricane. So there's another brand that we developed, which is Sparkle.
Right. Absolutely. I know this was a lunch and learn, and we try to keep it not super deal specific, but since you have this up there, we actually had a question that came in the forum prior to your meeting about the waterfall that you have listed here, the 60-40 split to the 40-60 to the 10-90. Can you speak to the strategy behind that? We really haven't seen a lot of that kind of structure. Just what the logic is behind that to help us understand, why the change in IRR dictates such a different change in the splits and so forth.
Yeah, so we really wanted to position our investors to reap the upfront benefits of this model. So with the 10% preferred return, if you think about most multifamily deals and self-storage deals, if there's an IRR hurdle, it's coming at 13 or 15.
Sure.
We even pushed out that hurdle even further to 20%. So it's actually front loads a lot of the cash flow and the equity early to the investor on the front half. But we wanted to leave them in and continue to participate in the deal alongside of us. And so really what the structure does is incentivizes the general partnership to get it above 20%.
Yeah. And that was some of the feedback was, well, this looks like it helps the GP want to perform more, which is great. Since you're about a year in, I'm assuming you don't have any that are reaching those thresholds yet anyway, right? As you're in your setup modes and getting established and everything else. But
Yeah, so our year one is a stabilization year. So, when we acquired the locations, we're rebranding everything, we're retraining the team, we might even be updating the equipment on all these locations. So, all of our year one cash flow is probably somewhere between 5 to 7% on our location. So we're below the pref on year one and probably year two on most of our deals. But by year three, we're hitting that pref.
gotcha.
Mhm.
Gotcha. That's where I was curious what the timeline was that you projected to.
Mhm. But it's still
And
healthy. I mean, you can make better cash on cash returns here than like most of the
yeah,
deals I'm seeing out there
we're,
these days.
we're hitting the 30%. We ought to be happy anyway, I suppose. But any other questions out there? The Q&A is kind of quiet today. There was one other forum question, again, more related to your deals than anything, and probably outside of, I think it was on the car wash. It was related to pause distributions. I don't know if you can speak to the situation with the portfolio that caused the pause, and I think it adjusted from monthly to quarterly. I think you've talked about that before,
We
but
adjusted monthly to quarterly. That
yeah,
is actually a great, our investor relations team, investor services, they have a little deeper knowledge on that, but we preemptively moved a good chunk of our portfolio from monthly to quarterly. And that's not any deals moving forward. That is right now, because we wanted to make sure that we had a good handle of what was happening with all of the spike in interest rates, with the Fed continuing to raise rates. Oddly enough, we have Danny Randazzo, one of our managing partners. He's brilliant when it comes to banking. I wouldn't say he predicted any of the banking issues, but he was just like, ooh, this Q1, Q2 are going to be really interesting. So let's make sure that we are in a really strong cash position on these assets, and that we're not putting anybody at risk. And I've actually personally, and I've been in this situation with assets where the operator continues to distribute cash, and they put themselves in an upside down position, and then all of a sudden they stop distributions, and then 2 months later you're getting a capital call, and you're like, wait a second, we knew this was going on. Why didn't we like pause distributions and keep it well fortified before having to do a capital call? And I'm not going to throw, I know there's an operator that many of us know, love, and trust that is kind of in that position right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus with that, but it'll be interesting. The next 4 or 5 months are going to be really interesting to see what happens.
No, I think that's fair. We did have a question pop up in the Q&A that this one gets pretty into the weeds, but I don't know if you have a slide on this or not, but the question was, what does a typical P&L for a single project look like? Revenue, ops costs, wages, et cetera. I don't know if you have that level of detail to be able to share
Let
or
me pull up
speak to a high level or something maybe.
let me pull up a current deal.
Okay.
We do have one open right now. Again, I don't want to, and this is not a pitch, guys. I want to respect the hallowed ground of the lunch and learns, but we in our pick car wash 5, we do have we do present those numbers. Now, it's going to be aggregated across multiple assets, and if not all assets have been identified, because sometimes we'll have 4 of say 5 assets identified, then the rest of it is just mere projection. So, but let me show, where'd you guys go? Let me show this to you. This is Pick Car Wash 5. And this is, like I said, aggregated across the 5 locations that we're putting here. So there's one in Florida, 3, um, and this shows 4 of the 5 locations. Gotcha. This is consolidated to, our projections for year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. So we've got our advertisement, chemical cost. And this, I think, really illustrates very well that, in our business model, we are putting a lot of emphasis on advertisement and ramping up these locations and acquiring customers to get them on that monthly recurring revenue model. But we're also reaping the benefits by bringing the costs down through our purchasing power with our third-party management company. And then, as well, labor, we're pulling down a little bit, as well. So we're kind of rebalancing the profit and loss statement. But I think this gives you a good kind of picture of that to answer that question.
Cool. No, that's good. Thank you. Had another question pop in too. Notice that your Fayetteville, North Carolina location has pet wash also. Is this a value add service you're adding to other locations?
Yeah, it's definitely something that we can add. I don't think we do it with every single location. It depends on what who the customers are, and is it something that they would value? But we build it into our higher tier monthly recurring revenue model. So whereas other competitors might say, here's your $25 a month subscription, and oh, by the way, if you want to wash your pet, it's $10. We just really encourage them to kind of bundle everything together, and we'll offer them free, scents included, vacuuming included. And that way, like when they're evaluating us against other competitors in the market, they're just like, we get all these things over here for a nice value. Why would we go anywhere else?
Makes sense.
Yeah, I love the pet model. I'm
that's
really dying for us to get one out here where I
live. Very good. Any other questions? We'll kind of give one more stint here, and then we may cut Whitney loose. Looks like that may be about it, but Whitney, again, appreciate you coming on and sharing with us today. Oh, we did have one more pop in. What percent does GP invest in each deal? So what's the general partner? What are they putting in?
Yeah, so our general partners always put in about 5 to 10% of the LP raise. So, the reason why we leave it as a window is because, they plan to put in 10%. And if there's, if investors are really wanting in the deal, they'll lower it to 5%. They'll open up the other 5% for added investment.
Gotcha. Perfect. Well, cool. Well, you shared with us your contact information. We'll be sending out an email with everything in it too. So if people have other questions, they can reach out to you directly. But again, thanks for coming on today and sharing the information. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Whitney. We'll see you.